Okay, now this might actually shock you, but 67% of divorcees actually remarry. After you've been divorced one time, they get remarried. That's 2/3. And that is a very high number. It actually is down from 86%. So that's virtually almost all individuals who have been divorced get remarried. And we're going to talk about why that actually is. Okay, let's get into this. Hey everyone, my name is Jerry with God and Jerry, and I'm your number one go-to for finding a kingdom spouse and solving your relationship problems forever, all right? So today we're gonna be talking about why 67% of people who divorce remarry or get remarried. And it's actually quite interesting because normally you think that, people would be traumatized, traumatized from their marriage, because there's so many marriages that are just so bad, and then they also end up terribly. Like they end in such a bad way. But it's just like people still just want to get remarried after. And I'm not saying it's bad, because I think you should. I personally think that you should. Depending on the circumstances. I'm a Christian, so like there's certain circumstances where that would apply, but like it's actually quite interesting to understand the stat. And it's just like people love love. And that's not necessarily the reason. That might be a surface level reason, but we're going to get into the actual reason of what's really going on in that situation. But before we do, if you can hit the like on this button and also subscribe, it's definitely something that is super free, supports this channel, and also can get this message to people who are exactly like you, who actually need this type of information. Especially if you've been watching other videos on this particular channel, you're going to be able to help people that you've never met, that you'll probably never meet, find different videos that are going to help them navigate all their relationships, whether it's a marriage, whether it's a relationship, whether it's whatever that looks like, even before you get into the relationship or the marriage. So there's easy ways, like you can think of it as charity. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Love you guys, and let's get into this. All right. So why do these individuals remarry? Personally, okay, we talked about this, like a quick example of why they might, which is people love love, right? People want to be in love. They love the idea of love. God is love. So obviously, people want to be in that situation. And the reality is just like, especially when you get that closeness with people, and you have, or let me say not people, with a person, right? And you've lived with a person in a certain context for a certain amount of time, we crave that closeness again. So I understand like the love part, and actually, the Bible talks about this as it's not good for man to be alone. So God from the very beginning recognized that, it's not good for a person to dwell by themselves. The Bible also talks about how two heads are better than one, and two are better than one. For like, if you fall, you have another person to lift you up, or if you're cold, you have another person to keep you warm. But woe unto that person who is by themselves, for when they fall, they don't have anyone to pick them up. So this whole the intimacy of humankind, like people really love intimacy. And, a lot of, unfortunately, people unaliving themselves, if you will, occur because of loneliness. Like loneliness is a huge thing. People say it's an epidemic right now. I think if it is an epidemic, it is a self-inflicted epidemic, because there's no reason why in 2026 people should be lonely. Like there's people that flood the streets everywhere you go. Obviously, I know social media is a thing, but you don't have to actually stay on social media. You can actually go out and talk to people. You can meet people every single day that you live, every single day. And to be honest with you, I've actually helped a lot of people in this area. There's a program that's actually been created for you. It's actually been brought into a program catered just for people like you. If you want to actually learn how to solve your relationship problems forever and actually find your kingdom spouse and actually become a kingdom spouse, definitely click the link in the description. It's something that is honestly so powerful, and like there's nothing really that difficult about it. It's just that people are not willing to listen. If you can just listen to the principles that are taught in this course, your life will change entirely. Like I'm not obviously going to speak on everything that's in the course on this platform for sure. It's probably like 80% at minimum I'm not going to talk about on this platform, because it's just, there's a lot, there's a lot. And it's highly important. Like this stuff is kind of like, baby candy, baby food, milk, what you want the meat, you know what I'm saying? But it's so important if you actually want, so it doesn't matter where you are in the spectrum, whether you're someone that's a pre-teen or something and you're watching this, you're a kid and you want to prepare for this in the future, whether you're like an older person, maybe your early 20s, your 30s, or maybe you're even married and you want to strengthen your relationship and you want principles to understand that. Again, for me, I'm never going to advocate for ending a marriage. But there are ways to strengthen your marriage. And I've helped many people who are much older than me, much younger than me. So click the link in the description if you actually want those results. Okay. But I don't believe, that's why for me, I don't consider loneliness to be an epidemic, because it's just like, it's self-inflicted. You can do what you want, and any single day you want to, you can choose to stop being lonely and actually go and hang with people. But most people choose comfort. Most people choose their comfort zone. And that kind of ties into like the real reason why most divorcees actually marry or remarry, let me say. Even if it's just like, well, I'm going to divorce outside of the context of what Jesus talked about, which is like infidelity. That's the only reason that Jesus gave for that. I think that's really the only reason God gave. Obviously, actually what Jesus said, he said, because of the hardness of your hearts, God, Moses permitted people to divorce, but from the beginning it wasn't so. We also have to remember that marriage is a God institution. Like, it's not created by human beings. God created marriage. He instilled it from the very beginning with the first couple. They did not instill their own marriage. God instilled that. So understanding that marriage in and of itself is a God thing. It wasn't the idea of humankind to be married. That came from God. So it's interesting because where I was going with this is like, okay, the idea around people getting into something that they're actually not prepared for and they don't actually understand how to navigate and how to handle. Because marriage is a God thing, it requires, like, for the most part, for people to succeed in a marriage, it requires almost like a not a God complex, but like the mindset of the Lord. Like, in order to have a very thriving and fruitful marriage where there's not infidelity, where there's not, physical or verbal abuse, where there's not just taking advantage of each other, and you guys are actually happy in your marriage. You're actually happy. I think in all my life, right? And I've been around all different faiths, whether it's atheism, which is a faith, the belief and non-belief, which is a faith, the belief system, or like, Christianity or Islam or Hinduism or whatever. I've noticed something though. I've noticed that, individuals who have the happiest marriages are Christians. Like, they have the happiest marriages. I've seen so many, and again, I could just be biased because that's just what I've seen in my own life, because I've met thousands, maybe probably tens of thousands of people now for sure. And I've recognized that, there's a lot of people who are married, but you can tell when a marriage is a happy marriage, and I think everyone can tell. We can all tell when a marriage is a happy marriage and when it's not a happy marriage. And some people, again, choose to continue to stay in that marriage, and that's great. I'm happy that, they choose the respectable and mature route, because most people are immature. And half of marriages fail because of immaturity. And that's kind of bleeds out into other things. It's really an unwillingness, which is immaturity, to follow the vows that we're actually committed to. And most human beings are not mature. A lot of times people think that because you're older, maturity is gonna follow you. No, like, even the Bible talks about like, says wisdom is not always with the stricken in years. So, just because you're of a certain age doesn't mean you're going to be mature. And we see that. I see 15-year-olds who are more mature than 40-year-olds, and 50-year-olds. I see 30-year-olds who are more mature than 70-year-olds. I see, 70-year-olds who are more mature than 30-year-olds, and vice versa, right? So it's not necessarily that, and you can look at a bunch of let's say 25-year-olds, and they have an array of different maturity levels. So it's handling, like, in order to handle something that's of God, you have to have like a really God-like mentality. This is the main scripture is like this, right? For a lack of knowledge, my people perish. So my people perish for a lack of knowledge or vision, depending on the version that you read. But the reality is, it's like most people, because again, statistically we know this, right? Second marriages fail more than first marriages, and third marriages fail more, and so on, right? So on and so forth. The more someone gets married, the more likely they're going to fail at marriage. Why? Because most of the time when you go into a marriage and you fail, number one, you don't recognize what caused the marriage to fail. Number two, you're not willing to change. And so we see this time and time and time again, why so many people will get married and then will get divorced and then will just go get married again to somebody else. And then you see them repeating these same things. Sometimes, again, it's not all the time that second marriages fail. Some people be like, oh, second time's a charm, third time's a charm. Which is what it is. Personally, if someone's been divorced, this is how I see it. If you've been divorced, either your personality is off or you have a bad vetting process, or both. Most of the time, it's actually both. Most of the time, the person is kind of wonky, and their vetting process is really poor. So essentially, like when you actually have the knowledge and understanding about how to, to navigate a marriage, you're more likely going to have a great marriage. You know what I'm saying? And it's not, one thing I recognize, because I've had like very long situationships and I've seen so many different marriages, it's like I recognize when people are just doing too much, or just not doing enough. And again, it's all a willingness thing, right? But again, we love people who love love. 76, I guess it's about 70%, 67% of people who get divorced get remarried. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but it's just like, okay, is it the same person who left that last marriage that's going into this new marriage? And most of the time it is. That's why most of them fail. So like with first marriage, it's about half. But when it comes to the new side, the next marriage, it's more than half. It's most people, like a far majority of people actually fail in their second marriages. And then obviously even more in the third. So recognize is like, when you're seeing these things, ask these people who are involved, who are about to be involved, especially who are the ones who are about to be involved in the next one. Is this the same person that left that last marriage? Have you changed? You know what I'm saying? I don't want to get too much into that. Also, if you want to be able to recognize if a relationship is going to last, there are some really early signs that you can tell and you can take a look at, and they'll be able to guide you really effectively. It's these right here. You definitely want to watch that video. It's not everything, but it's the most important things that are in there. So catch you in the next one. Hit that video. And it's Jerry with God and Jerry. I'm out. Blessings.